I've been to Israel not as many times as Mike Huckabee, who I respect. Mike Huckabee, who I respect.
I've known Mike a long time. I was the governor of Texas. He was the governor of Arkansas. He's a good, solid, conservative person. And
this president's foreign policy is the most feckless in American history. He's so naive, he would trust the Iranians, and he would take the Israelis and basically march them to the door of the oven.
But the reality is, and I'm worried because, frankly, that was Barack Obama. He just tripped off a chair. He's getting ready to speak, and somebody aimed a gun at him, and he dove for the floor. I think Jeb Bush is conservative. I think it's very unfair for people if they ever watched him govern, and I was a governor contemporaneously with Jeb. Nobody questioned Jeb's bona fides as a conservative.
How about Marco Rubio? Is he experienced enough?
I think Jeb Bush is conservative.
This president's foreign policy is the most feckless in American history. He's so naive, he would trust the Iranians, and he would take the Israelis and basically march them to the door of the oven.
But the reality is, and I'm worried because, frankly, that was Barack Obama. He just tripped off a chair. He's getting ready to speak, and somebody aimed a gun at him, and he dove for the floor.
And he would take the Israelis and basically march them to the door of the oven.
Do you stand by your comments? What
Absolutely, I do. Absolutely, I do. 3 times I've been to Auschwitz. When I talked about the oven door, I have stood at that oven door. I know exactly what it looks like. The IRS is the closest thing the U.S. has to a Gestapo. When I talked about the oven door, I have stood at that oven door. I know exactly what it looks like. The IRS is the closest thing the U.S. has to a Gestapo.
Look, I've been to Israel not as many times as Mike Huckabee, who I respect. Mike Huckabee, who I respect.
Back in 2008, I want to play what you said when you last ran for president, when the issue came up during the South Carolina primary.
You don't like people from outside the state coming down and telling you what to do with your flag. In fact, if somebody came to Arkansas and told us what to do with our flag, we'd tell them where to put the pole. That's what we do.
Governor, how do you feel this morning?
I still feel like it's not an issue for a person running for president.
Look, I've been to Israel not as many times as Mike Huckabee, who I respect.
Red is fire. So it's away from me.
Some problems with his safety lock. He bagged a pheasant, 3 for his whole party.
These 3 birds all said they would not vote for me on caucus night. You see what happened to them.
Governor, is that positive campaign?
It's very positive. It's very positive. You vote for me, you live. You don't? There you go.
One of the moments that I will always remember was in Iowa. Governor Huckabee and I were asked to speak separately at a health care forum. We were the only 2 Republican candidates that were invited. We decided to do it together. I still think most people remember it as one of the more illuminating and educational experiences that they had on the issue of health care. And as we stood next to each other at the very end of the podiums during the debates, Governor Huckabee and I had lots of time to chat with each other.
Yes, we did.
Since at one point there were very few questions that were directed to us. So we had the chance to get to know each other.
The situation in Nicaragua will not improve economically for the people if we cut off aid to the Contras. In fact, it'll probably worsen. The only way that the economic conditions of the people in Nicaragua will improve is if the kind of government that's representative of the people is installed.
I was proud to be a foot soldier in the Reagan Revolution.
Bomberan, you know. Bomb, 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 bomb. Anyway.
Look, I'm a Ronald Reagan Republican. I believe we have to win here. I believe in freedom.
Bomberan.
Aid to the Contras.
Bomberan.
Aid to the Contras. The Sandinista government doesn't indicate that without the pressure, the military pressure of the Contras, that they will indeed come in compliance. I keep hearing over and over and over and over, give peace a chance. I would ask what kind of peace we want to give. Lethal aid should be extended, and I think it's absolutely insane that it was rejected.
Mr. Vice President, thank you for being with us tonight. Donald Gregg still serves as your trusted advisor. He was deeply involved in running arms for the Contras, and he didn't inform you. Now, when President Reagan's trusted advisor, Admiral Poindexter, failed to inform him, the president fired him. Why is Mr. Gregg still inside the White House and still a trusted advisor?
Because I have confidence in him, and because this matter, Dan, as you well know, and your editors know, has been looked at by the $10 million study by the Senate and the House. It's been looked at by the Tower Commission. The Rodriguez testimony that you put on here, I just think it's outrageous because he was totally vindicated, swore under oath that he never talked to me about the Contras, and yet this report you're making, which you told me, or your people did, you have a Mr. Cohen that works for you, was going to be a political profile. Now, if this is a political profile for an election, I have a very different opinion as to what one should be. But Don Gregg works for me because I don't think he's done anything wrong. And I think if he had, this exhaustive examination that was gone into by the Senate and by the House would have showed it. And you've impugned my integrity by suggesting with one of your little boards here that I didn't tell the truth about what Felix Rodriguez. You didn't accuse me of it, but you made that suggestion. And other people were in the meeting, including Mr. Nick Brady, and he has said that my version is correct. And so I find this to be a rehash and a little bit, if you'll excuse me, a misrepresentation on the part of CBS, who said you're doing political profiles on all the candidates, and then you come up with something that has been exhaustively looked into.
Mr. Vice President, what we agreed to or didn't agree to, I think you will agree for the moment, can be dealt with in another way. Let's talk about the record. You say that we've misrepresented your record. Let's talk about the record. If we've misrepresented your record in any way, here's a chance to set it straight.
Right. Now, I just set it straight on one count because you implied from that little thing, I have a little monitor sitting on the side here, that I didn't tell the truth. Now, this has all been looked into.
Where did we imply that, Mr. Vice President?
Well, just here on this board where you had the idea that Bush says that he didn't hear about the Contra supply from Felix Rodriguez. Felix Rodriguez testified under oath. He has been public, and you could have at least run a little picture of him saying that I never told the Vice President about the Contras. I'm asking for fair play, and I thought I was here to talk about my views on education or on getting this deficit down.
A Supreme Court Justice of the United States, Clarence Thomas, and I'm proud I named him to that court.
I was an assistant attorney general in the state of Missouri. I was an attorney in the corporate law department of Monsanto Company.
A Supreme Court Justice of the United States, Clarence Thomas, and I'm proud I named him to that court.
I was an attorney in the corporate law department of Monsanto Company.
Exceptional news footage actually shows George Bush Sr. visiting Monsanto's research facility 9 years before Roundup-ready soybeans were first sold.
What I'd like to do today is show you some of the steps we go through when we're moving genes from one organism into another. And you'll actually be doing the very little manipulations we do in the laboratory, where we take DNA, cut it apart, mix different pieces together, and then rejoin them, splice them back together. This tube contains DNA that was made from a bacterium. DNA would look the same whether it was from a plant or an animal. What are we saying here?
Oh, I see. And this will lead you to do what? To have a stronger plant, or a plant that's resists herbicide?
In this case, it resists the herbicide.
I see.
We have a fabulous herbicide. This is a chemical that will...
When George Bush Sr. toured the company's headquarters, he was Ronald Reagan's vice president, and deregulation was this Republican administration's watchword. The intention was to boost industry by eliminating what White House hardliners called bureaucratic hurdles, like health and environmental safety testing, which were Monsanto's key problems.
We have before USDA right now a request to test this for the first time on a farm in Illinois this year. And
Get hallucinating about it, we'll lose another year.
Yes, we will.
And then the expense goes out and nothing happens because you can't do it.
Yeah, and I would say, quite frankly, we have no complaint about the way USDA is handling it. They're going through an orderly process. They're making sure that as they deal with these new things, they do them properly. And no, if we're waiting until September and we don't have our authorization, we may say something different.
Call me. We're in a dereg business.